Welcome back to the Wasteland. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Shishkebab and its unique variant. So the Shishkebab is not necessarily a new weapon to New Vegas. It first popped up in Fallout 3, and it's also in Fallout 4. I believe it's in 76 as well. So the Shishkebab is a homemade weapon that is a lawnmower blade that is lit on fire, where your person is also holding like an oven mitt in order to hold the handle. It's definitely a interesting weapon that I think belongs in the Wasteland. The Shishkebab is generally considered a later game melee weapon. There's not a whole lot of enemies that actually have this. There are a couple that can have it. The white legs are the ones that come to mind if you go there at high levels. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to buy a Shishkebab from somewhere, because most other enemies don't have it. Raiders don't really have it. Legion doesn't really carry it around, although you think it would be a perfect Legion weapon. The Shishkebab requires 75 melee and 6 strength to wield, so fairly high melee. Strength is about normal, but you're probably going to have high strength running a melee character anyway. This one does 40 damage on hit, although since this is a fire weapon and it does count as a fire weapon, this also deals fire damage on top of that. This deals 2 fire damage on hit for 5 seconds after the fact. This has 92 damage per second, plus that extra fire that deals more damage over time, so its DPS can be up a little bit higher depending on how many enemies you're hitting and how long they're burning. This one has 20 crit damage, half of what its regular damage is, which is kind of interesting. Some melee weapons are like this. This one has a 2 times crit modifier though, so you're more likely to hit crits with it, which is pretty nice. That makes it so you can get even more damage per second, which is always good. This only costs 28 action points to use, which is pretty good. Both VITs and the unique version of it have the same VATS attack once you hit 50 melee. For this, it's backslash. Backslash costs less action points to use, but does less damage. It's an okay VATS attack. It's nothing way crazy. It's just alright. This one only weighs 3 weight, so it's not that heavy. And the Shishkebab has a massive 500 item health. It's one of the most durable melee weapons in the entire game. There's very few other melee weapons that are actually nearly as high item HP as this one for some odd reason. There are some that are technically higher than this, like the chainsaw and the thermic lance, but those ones hit multiple times really fast and break really fast as well. The Shishkebab doesn't. It attacks at a normal speed and breaks at a really, really low speed. So this is probably one of the best melee weapons if you just hate repairing your stuff, which generally isn't too big of an issue, especially if you're going with jury rigging, because then any one-handed melee weapon can fix this up. If you are, then you won't even need to really worry about Shishkebabs. You'll likely be able to fix this up on your own with weapon repair kits or have somebody else fix it for you. So the item HP is really, really cool. For the general pros of the Shishkebab, this one does actually have pretty good damage per second. It has pretty good damage per hit as well, and it has very high item HP. It takes a really long time for the Shishkebab to break, which is really cool. The only real con to the Shishkebab is that it's kind of rare. And I have heard, at least from some other people, that the flames are a little bit, not necessarily distracting, but somewhat block your screen, because the Shishkebab does take up a somewhat decent amount of your screen. It's not the most for melee weapons, but it can be a little bit confusing when you're sitting there like slashing people and they're lit on fire, and you can have quite a few things on fire around you, and it just kind of blocks your vision as to which one's attacking you compared to other melee weapons that don't have that particle effect. There are a lot of perks that can help out with these weapons too, so we have all the regular melee and unarmed that we go over in all these videos. So Slayer for extra attack speed, Super Slam for knocking down enemies, Piercing Strike for punching through armor, Purifier to kill certain types of enemies, and then most importantly for this one is Pyromaniac also affects it. This is one of the few weapons that Pyromaniac affects. It's probably going to be one of the main options that you consider when taking Pyromaniac. This one or the Saturnite Fist Superheated, which we just recently talked about, are two of the best melee and unarmed weapons, and they get even better because of Pyromaniac, because that gives you 50% more damage on top of this. For an overall rating for the Shishkebab, I'd probably put the Shishkebab either up into high A tier or low S tier. I think it's really good. I think I'm going to put it into high A tier for the moment, but it's a very solid all-around option. If you have Pyromaniac, it lets you have really high damage and damage per second. This thing attacks pretty quick, so you can rack up that damage really fast. It's also very hard to break, so a lot of good selling points to the Shishkebab. Let's move over to the unique version, which is called Gehenna. Gehenna is a Gunner's Arsenal specific weapon, so you do need to have that DLC. You're also going to have to buy this from the Gunrunners. Weirdly enough, the Gunrunners actually sell this. I really feel like this should have been given to like the Great Khan vendor or like a Legion vendor or something, because it is a bladed weapon, but you just go up to the Gunrunners and buy this. This is going to be fairly expensive, but it's not one of the most expensive DLC weapons, so that's pretty nice. This one also requires 75 melee and 6 strength to wield, same as the regular Shishkebab. This one does slightly more damage at 42 damage on hit, as well as it does more fire damage, dealing 5 fire damage for 5 seconds. So you get more damage over time thanks to this. This one also looks a little bit different, where you can see like the valve and the motorcycle handbrake, I believe, that comes off of it is a blue color rather than just kind of the rusted red color that is on the regular Shishkebab, as well as the fire is slightly different. It's more of a yellowish flame than it is a red flame compared to the regular shish kebab. This does 116 damage per second, plus that extra fire damage, so more damage per second over time. This has 21 crit damage, slightly better than the other one. Has a 2x crit modifier, same as the regular one, which is pretty good. Only costs 25 action points, which makes it pretty decent in a VATS build. This one weighs 3, just like regular shish kebab, although this one has less item HP than the regular shish kebab, only having 400 instead of 500. That's still plenty of HP for a melee weapon. You're probably not going to be breaking this one super fast. This one I would say is all around just better than a regular shish kebab. So if the regular shish kebab is on like low S tier, high A tier, I'm going to put this one up into S tier. I think it's one of the better melee weapons that you can take. It does do pretty good damage. It definitely has a style all of its own. I'm kind of sad that you can't build one of these like you could in Fallout 3, but either way, it's really cool that there is the shish kebab returning in New Vegas, and I find it to be a pretty cool weapon overall. Would I recommend the shish kebab in Gehenna? Sure, if you're going with a melee build, they're actually quite good. If you're going to go with Pyromaniac, it's probably one of your best options besides the Saturnite Fist Superheated, which you could argue is better than this or worse than this. They're both really good options. You could take both on that same build too. Tell me your thoughts on the shish kebab down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.